Well, Dr. Terri, we are live. Thank you for being here.
I'm excited. Thank you so much. This is fun. I like doing live stuff.
It is fun. So whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording with us, we just want to thank you for spending time with us. I think you're going to find what Dr. Terri has to say is extremely beneficial and helpful. And you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and you're going to go, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I can say that personally. And I guess I should say that I go to Dr. Terri. So she's been extremely helpful for me and a lot of the people that I know. So I've known Dr. Terri DeNeui for years, and I've watched her. We won't say how long, Terri. I've watched her determination to be a champion and an advocate for all of us leading a healthy life. And her biography is way too long to read.
Yeah, don't read it.
I'm not. But just let me suffice to say, she's a medical practitioner. She's an entrepreneur. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's a business owner again, and just doing so much to help educate people on our health and how we can know better. So as always, after this, I encourage you to go to her LinkedIn profile if you're not already connected and get connected. And then I'll put the link to Avexius in the chat here in a second so people can see that. But as always, if you have questions, please include those so we can go through them as we go through all this. So thank you for being here, Dr. Terri. I appreciate it so much. I know you're busy and you got a lot of things going on, but it means a lot. Thank you. Let's start back at the beginning. What was the defining moment you knew that you decided to open Avexius Medical Centers? What was the defining moment for that?
I love this question because there really was a specific defining moment. And so I am a nurse practitioner and I have my clinical doctorate. And really what that really means is I did advanced doctoral education to understand the research process. And I've published a couple of papers and research papers and things. But I was working as a nurse practitioner in a very busy hospital system in Dallas with a hospitalist group. I was also working in emergency medicine as well. So I really was looking for something to do where I wasn't working these crazy 12-hour night shifts. So I decided to open a little, clinic that started with, I joined forces with another nurse practitioner who was doing weight loss, and I was going to do aesthetics and just like doing Botox on the side, nothing life-changing. Well, for some people it was life-changing, but
it could be. Yeah.
Listen, it's important. Those wrinkles are important. But at any rate, our neighbor, who is a compounding pharmacist, or was at the time, came over to our office and invited her to a longevity conference that had a focus on hormones, because she was doing weight loss at the time. You remember the HCG trend.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, this will go hand in hand. I really kind of look back and I have her to thank for, saying no to that opportunity, because she said, no, I'm not really interested in hormones, but Terri might want to go to your conference. And I was like, I don't know. I've saved lives in the emergency room. That sounds kind of boring. But he dangled this, carrot of, well, what if I sent you on a first class, all expenses paid suite at the Bellagio? And I was like, okay. But it's crazy because how God is going to get you where he's going to get you one way or the other. So, he spoke my language through this first class trip. But what happened is I was there and I attended the conference and I was listening to a doctor speak about the life change in her patients with hormone optimization and how she was seeing diseases regress and patients being able to come off medications for chronic conditions. And I had this literal aha moment in the middle of that audience. And I knew, and I said to myself, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It made so much sense. Because what I was realizing, and I had already been frustrated about, but I didn't have an answer to, was that pretty much about 90% of the patients that I saw in the hospital, either that were admitted, that I was rounding on with the hospitalist group, or even that came in the emergency room, were there for some sort of complication of a chronic preventable disease. And it's the preventable. And I remember thinking to myself, we need to do more for prevention. And so it sent me on this journey for the last 16 years to learn and apply everything I know in the space of disease prevention. And for us, optimizing hormones is a cornerstone for that. I can, educate why that's important. Well, what does hormones have to do with your heart and your brain and your, all of those things? Well, everything. And we can talk a little bit about that. And we have, it's just kind of grown from there. And that's how I got started. That was the spark.
It's interesting how most people can tell you when that aha moment was.
Yeah.
And funny enough, when people are sharing those stories, you actually get chills because you can feel the person in that space knowing that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Thank goodness he offered you the ticket and you got to go and you got to hear it.
I'm grateful that the other person I worked with didn't want to go. Right. It completely sent me down on my life's purpose, really.
Absolutely.
And I really feel that.
You had a lot of work in emergency rooms and things. You have degrees from both Texas Women's University and UT Arlington.
Yep.
Did you pursue those degrees in the beginning, knowing you wanted to do something next, or did just education and the first class trip to the Bellagio form that? I mean,
no, I had already gotten my my nurse practitioner degree, prior to starting my clinics that we started working on prevention, wellness, hormones as a cornerstone. But I did continue my education and get my doctoral degree because I really felt like I needed to level up my education to be able to have a seat at the table with a lot of big thinkers. And that has really opened doors. I mean, it taught me how to understand the research process. It taught me how to have conversations that are intellectual with people that I need to have those conversations with. But it also has, fueled my passion for research and understanding the truth and sharing with people what it's said in the literature about disease prevention. And then, of course, confidence in getting in front of thousands of doctors at some conferences and teaching them. So, it's the doctoral degree came after, but all the experience, had started definitely with my degree from UT with my nurse practitioner degree.
You see all these shows on TV about emergency rooms and things, and I applaud the people who can do that because I know I couldn't do it.
It's fun. Some days I miss it, but then I shake my head and get out. It's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of they're the unsung heroes. Nurses all over are for sure.
They are.
Emergency medicine doctors, nurse practitioners, PAs, nurses are really unsung heroes because it's, and especially in 2020 during COVID, I mean, there was just, wow. My daughter's an emergency room nurse that, still has some trauma from that season. And they don't get honored enough. So thanks for the opportunity for letting me do that.
My grandmother was a nurse, and yeah, you're right. They are, because they don't get the respect because they're the ones who spend the most time with patients. I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean,
oh my gosh. When I was a labor and delivery nurse, I would crack up because I would be laboring with a mother for 12 hours. And then the doctor wants to be called when the head is coming out, so tell the doctor the head's coming out. He comes, pulls the baby out. And the husband's always like, thank you, doctor. And I'm like, what am I, chopped liver?
you should do a show on that. That'd be a really good. That'd be a good one.
It's so funny. I mean, and I worked with some great doctors that would say, "Well, don't thank me, thank her. She's the one who got your wife to this point." So
yeah, because that's where all the hard work was for sure. Now, I've been to your office, the one in South Lake, and I know when seriously, and I'm not just saying this because it's you and because we're here today, but totally impressed the first time I walked in there. The staff, everyone, just an amazing location, amazing feeling when you walk in, and the whole experience is really personalized. So I know you built that on 4 pillars. I did my research: care, respect, growth, and partnership. Talk us, why that and how you kind of came to that.
Well, when I was working in the hospital before I was a nurse practitioner, I was a nurse manager in labor and delivery in a big labor and delivery, antepartum, postpartum. And I had 90 women under my leadership. And I was only a 30-year-old, and most of them were older than I was. So I learned a lot about the importance of instilling culture at that time, because leading 90 women across the age spectrum is definitely a challenge. But one of the things I was able to learn was how to bring them together as a part of a team. Now, this comes pretty naturally for men, because men are naturally team oriented. Not all females, we're not always so naturally team oriented. So culture became the forefront of, I believe, my success as a manager there. I started doing a lot of executive coaching early on in my leadership career. And so when I finally broke away from the hospital and opened the clinics, and the clinics grew really quickly, because what we were doing with hormone therapies definitely we got busy really fast, because we were really helping people, and we were getting people off medications and all those kinds of things. And what I realized, even more importantly, was, wow, we spend more time with our work family than we do with our home family. And how can we create an environment that the culture is something that I want to come to every day? To this day, I have employees that have been with me from the beginning for 13, 14 years. And in a medical office, that is saying a lot. And I'm not taking the credit for that. I'm super blessed to have been able to partner with my first clinic manager, who also was very culture oriented. And we developed the culture, and we sat down with a executive coach. Well, how we came up with those 4 pillars was, we surveyed our patients, our clients essentially, and said, in one sentence, how would you describe your experience at the time it was Hormonal Health and Wellness Centers, but then we changed the name. And we took that information and we dialed it down to 4 things. We had 200 responses to the survey, which was pretty impressive. And 4 common themes kept coming up. I feel cared for. I feel like I'm given an opportunity to grow. Growth was important: personal growth, spiritual growth, relationship growth. I feel respected. I feel honored. And partnership is one we tacked on later, because we realized it was important to have a partnership with our patients. Yeah. Not being the almighty clinician in the white coat that's going to tell you what to do because I'm smarter than you. No, I'm not even close to smarter than you. You know your body better than I do. So let's partner in your wellness, and let's partner in getting you to be the best, healthiest version of yourself that you can be. And that's mind, body, and spirit. So long answer to your question, but that's kind of how it started.
That's really good. Hello, Miss Yolanda. For being here. We appreciate you being here. I remember the first time I walked in, and I remember the aesthetics of it, how pretty it was and everything. But you educate from the moment you walk in the door, which I think says a lot. And then when you're within your staff, they're telling you specifically what they're doing. I mean, they're walking you through everything. And I remember my first time I had the call with you, and I had the discussion with you on my blood work and stuff. You were telling me things I had never and I won't say how old I am, but I've been to a few doctors in my life, and not one has ever gone that in depth. And I think that's one of the things that we're missing. And to this day, I know so many women who are struggling with their own lives and their own health, and they don't know why. And so to talk about that a little bit, what are you seeing, and why do you think they aren't more aware?
Oh, great question. So you nailed it. My passion is educating, not only with transparency and with evidence, science-based education. And one of the things I realized early on, and my husband, who's my partner in business, he's really good at the business side, is that I can only impact my geographical area, but how can we impact the whole country? Because the results I'm seeing in my patients with getting off their antidepressants, getting off their sleeping pills, getting off their anxiety pills, the stories over and over of relationships healing, that are incredible, that I tell a lot of stories in my book, which I'm sure will be in your show description. But one of the things that was really hit me is we've got to train other doctors and healthcare providers on how to do these things, because patient after patient would come to our office, just like you just said. How come nobody's ever told me this? Why has my doctor never ever told me this? Well, my answer is always don't be mad at your doctor, clinician, whatever. We're not trained this in conventional school. If you want to learn how to attack disease prevention, you have to get extra training. If you want to understand hormones in women, we got a 15-minute lecture on hormones in women, and it basically consisted of someday she'll have hot flashes and you can put her on some form of estrogen. That's it. No other education. And it's so much more than that. So we created a model where we train doctors and clinicians every month. On average, now we have about 500 plus come to our training. Why? Because they realize what they've been taught and the tools we've been given in our allopathic Western medicine are not making people better. They're just making people more dependent on drugs, and it's not healing and getting to the root cause. So I'm very passionate, and my education team is very passionate on teaching root cause medicine. And that's why so many women don't know, is because their doctors don't know. And again, it's not their fault. It's how our, medical education institutions are designed, but we're working really hard to change that. A lot at hopefully maybe the policy level, and just getting some, for instance, nutrition being a requirement for medical schools. It's not really currently right now. So a lot more I could say about that, but a lot of women don't understand that the depression, moodiness, anxious, irritability, difficulty sleeping, not focusing, chronic joint pain, weight gain, all these things, they're not thinking it's hormone related because they haven't gone through the change of life. Right. And that seems to be the only time, most conventional medical practitioners even pay attention to a woman in these symptoms is if she's having hot flashes and going through menopause. Well, all of these symptoms can happen 20 plus years prior to menopause and can be really devastating for relationships and health in general.
I see so many women, of course, I live online. I'm out so much on digital space. So many women talk about, and I started seeing the thread, and I know COVID had a lot to do with it, to your point earlier, but I see a lot of women talking about the anxiety and the depression, especially a lot.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and it's not just one age bracket, to your point. No. It's across the board, and it's across the country. And it's sad that they don't know. That's why I wanted to have you on.
I can explain that a little bit if you want. I mean, mental health is finally getting some attention, and part of it is a lot of times women will say, I feel depressed, I feel anxious, and they have shame around it because they look at their life and they go, I have no reason to be depressed or anxious. I have a beautiful life. I have a beautiful husband and children. And so they don't really want to talk about it. In fact, one study showed only 10% of women will even bring up these feelings to their healthcare provider. And when they do, the only tool in the toolbox that most healthcare providers have is an anxiety medicine or an antidepressant or both, which has its own side effects of low energy, low sex drive, weight gain, which are some of the things, they're trying to overcome. Nobody is taught that testosterone decline in women that starts in our 30s or after that second baby, whichever came first, is the number one thing that begins the journey into depression. Now, my doctoral thesis work was on depression and androgens in women. And there's a direct correlation to testosterone decline in women that starts typically in our 30s and the increase in depression and anxiety. Then what happens in our 40s, we lose progesterone, and progesterone is a calming hormone. So you've lost testosterone in your 30s, you lose progesterone in your 40s, and then in your 50s, you start to lose estrogen, and everything you've been experiencing just gets worse and exacerbated, right? But this anxiety and depression, I'm super passionate about it, if you can't tell, because too many women are suffering needlessly, and it is a hormone dysfunction conversation. And it's happening in younger and younger women as well.
And see, that's what I noticed, because we were talking about earlier, you think about it with a certain age bracket of women, pushing 50, but many of these young, they're like in their early 30s. They're young. Yeah. They're not.
Yeah. Especially if they've had children or on birth control pills or anything that's gonna, women, I love men. Obviously, they're amazing humans, but they're very simple with their hormones. They have testosterone, and it impacts their, them like probably starting in their 40s. Women are dealing with hormone fluctuations from about 13, sometimes earlier, all through the lifespan. We have monthly cyclical hormones. And then when, certain hormones at certain ages, like our 30s, decline, then you got another change. And then every decade we have a change in our hormones. It's kind of not fair, but that's just how we were designed. But there's so much misinformation about it. And so many people don't understand, hey, there is a root cause for how I'm feeling. And it's not a Prozac deficiency, right? It's not a Xanax deficiency.
Right.
A hormone deficiency. Now, I'm not to say, I don't want anybody to hear me say that I'm anti-medications. I think those medications have their place. But what people need to understand is all of those medications and cholesterol medications, type 2 diabetes medications, blood pressure medications. These were all meant to be a temporary stopgap solution while you searched for and treated the root cause of the problem. But in our Western allopathic model of sick care, we get on the pharma hamster wheel and we basically just accept that I'm going to be on these medications my whole life, right? And that's not how they were designed or intended originally, right? And now we've kind of gotten that, okay, well, I have high blood pressure. I'm going to be on blood pressure medicine the rest of my life. It doesn't have to be that way. We get patients off medications all the time because we get to the root cause.
It's so fascinating because I don't take any medications. And anytime I have to go to the doctor or something, they're always like, they act like you don't know what they're asking you. And I'm like, no, I don't take a prescription drug. Take some vitamins and stuff and some things I've gotten from you, but I don't take prescription drugs. That is not the norm. Because from a very early age, they want it. And I think that, to your point earlier, I think that's going to change now with the conversations that are happening. And
like this. That's why I appreciate the invitation.
Exactly. I was so pleased because this is one of those things when we don't know. I mean, for sure. Now, Vexius means much wellness, which you've talked about the whole time we've been talking, that there's the whole person, not just the symptoms. How do you translate that to a patient's experience? And I want to know how you came up with the name, because when I first saw it, I'm like, well, what does that mean? So,
I give my husband credit for that, Dan DeNeui. He's the CEO of our company, and he's a good namer of things. And he was really exploring, what do we want to name our company? And he thought of the first physicians, which were Greeks. And so he started researching, well, what's the Greek word for being well? We want people to be well. What's that word? And that's Avexius. And Avexius can really translate to mean being excited about being well, exuberant about being well. It's an excitement word. It's kind of a verb. It's an action-oriented word, which goes along with hormone, because the word hormone means to urge, to impel, to move on, to cause an action, to wake up, activity, right? So they're both action-oriented words. But yeah, he's Avexius. He came up with that, and it fits.
Well, I've met Dan several times, and he has a strong business acumen. He's very much a business thought leader for sure, and well respected. You guys make a great team in that regard. And Stacy, our dear friend, who were friends with both of us, she always says the name is the claim, which is true. And when you're talking about the Greeks and stuff, because that's when things were before all the farm and all the stuff got into our system, if you will. So now I know like I said, I've seen you speak many times. I know you're passionate about educating people, and you don't educate just your patients. You talked a little bit earlier about the doctors and different people you bring in to talk to train them and teach them. What's one message you want to hope those people walk away with and remember after being there? They come to the door, they've never heard you, they want to be trained, they want to learn. What's one thing you want them to make sure that they leave with?
The never stop learning. We really make it a point that you've entered our space to begin the paradigm shift in how you approach healthcare and your patients. But we are not, this weekend, because it's a 2-day training, is not the end of it. You have to keep learning and keep learning and keep learning. So we not only develop a lot of other ongoing education for all these clinicians, but I'm out there constantly learning. I'm going to conferences. I mean, I always want to be the least smart person at the table. That's my favorite thing to be, because if you aren't learning, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying, really, essentially. And so that's the biggest thing that we really, and I co-teach with just an amazing doctor. He's an OB-GYN out of Houston. And he tells his story about being the arrogant, almighty OB-GYN that thought he knew everything until he came to another company that I had started, and we trained there, and he was like, wow, I don't know anything, And so now he's, very passionate and has seen the change in 13 years in his patients, and he co-teaches with me. But one of the things he really says is, you have to keep learning. You have to be humble enough to know and admit, I don't know everything, and I'm going to keep learning. And I think that's what keeps our passion alive, but it also is what continues to help move the needle for health, because I don't think we've got it figured out fully at all. There's so much I don't know still that I'm excited to learn. Yeah, that's the biggest.
I think about our bodies, and just from in my lifetime, what we've learned, that, every year you learn more because of technology and the science and et cetera, et cetera. It is so overwhelmingly amazing what our bodies can do.
Yeah. Especially our minds.
Yeah. I mean, it's mind boggling. I mean, it's so amazing what's available now that wasn't available, years ago. And I'm like you, I'm a huge lifelong learner. I'm learning every day. And if you stop that, then
like I tell all the clinicians there too. And my biggest teachers for 16 years, and even before when I was in the hospital, have been my patients. I have learned everything. I've learned some textbook stuff, and I've learned a lot from research, but my patients teach me everything. And without their tutelage through their journeys of helping them, I wouldn't be here today.
It's funny you say that, because I joke that as a school principal, I drove a school bus when I was going to college, and I joke that I learned everything I needed to know about discipline driving a bus, not in college.
I bet you did.
Because college is theory in so many ways until you get out in the real world.
Right.
And I can't even fathom being in an emergency room and the stuff you would learn.
Well, it's like, why do you think they call it practicing medicine? Because we're essentially practicing.
My kids say that all the time. They're always saying that, for sure. Yeah, and like I said, the body's so just so much. What counsel or advice do you give women and men, because I know you work with both, who might be struggling or dealing with a particular health issue? What's your approach to that, you and your team?
Yeah. So really go into any journey you're exploring to figure out whatever health conversation you're going to have, whatever issue, problem you may have, or maybe you just want to be generally healthier. Go in it with the mindset of, I want to know what the root cause is. And I think a lot of people go to the doctor to go, I want to know why this is happening with me. And, because most doctors, because of the way the insurance model is, they have 10 minutes to talk to you. There's no way they're going to figure it out in 10 minutes. Right. And then, they kind of do their thing and give you the prescription and move on down the road. And I would just encourage people and empower them to, if it doesn't feel right in your gut, that interaction, and if you don't feel like whatever transaction just took place for your health is going to get you to meet your goals, move on, find someone else, look for somebody that's going to take the time to sit down. Our consultations are anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour with our patients. And it takes that long initially to sit down. And then in the next visits with my patients every, either 6 weeks to 12 weeks, I'm learning more about them and I'm asking questions. And I think that goes back to the learning, because I can't figure out how to help you without asking you really important questions. And I mean questions back from before, there's important questions to understand depending on what you're addressing. Like if you're addressing the gut, or if you're addressing, the brain or depression or moods, sometimes you got to peel that all the way back to childhood to in the womb, if you know what happened there. So I just think that finding that connection with a clinician that cares, that wants to sit down and listen to you. And here's the biggest thing. If you are sitting in front of a healthcare provider, I don't care what kind of letters they have after their name or how many, if they aren't open to being able to say, I don't know, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of confirmation bias with a lot of clinicians because they learned it how they learned it, and that's their recipe book, and that's what they're doing. And, I hear this a lot. I tried to talk to my doctor about, this or that, or the hormones that you're doing. And they're like, oh, that's just, don't do that. It's terrible. And it's going to cause this and it's going to cause that. And when they ask, well, what is that based on? Can you give me some information? Are there studies? And it was like, oh, I just, well, that's arrogance, and that's a problem. You can't be arrogant in the medical space. You have to be humble, and you have to be able to say, and I tell this to clinicians all the time, patients respect, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Just tell them, just communicate.
They trust you. I don't know. I'm going to do a little research and let me get back to you. I'll have the answer next time I see you.
Right.
That'll have somebody latch onto you because it develops trust, and they know that you have their best interest when you can say, I don't know, but I'm going to find out.
Yeah, because really, if it's a broken bone, yes, that's an easy thing to fix. But if it's you decide to say, immediately, you're right. Arrogance.
Yeah.
Well, I remember I forget when it was, I heard you speak and you were talking about asking questions on both sides of the desk. They should be asking you questions and you should be 100%. Asking questions back.
Yep. 100%.
And not
Please go in with your list. And if they don't have time to listen to your list, find somebody that does.
It does, for sure. Now, you talked a little bit about training and certifying practitioners. You do that nationwide, right? I mean, you have people across the country come in, and after they leave the sessions or the conference, whatever, do you continue working with them? How does that work?
Oh, yeah. So we have a very comprehensive 2-day training. We're focused on regenerative medicine. Sometimes those are 3-day trainings when we have another speaker that comes in and talks about regenerative therapies like peptides and things like that. It can be a 3-day kind of integrative medicine approach. But they spend those 2 to 3 days with us. And then they bring their staff in, and we have a whole separate training going on for their staff to understand some of these therapies and how they can support the clinician in the office. Because we tell doctors all the time, you could have the cure to cancer, but if your staff isn't getting a butt in the seat for you to talk to, what's the point of your knowledge, right? So we train the staff simultaneously at a level that is workable for them. We talk about paperwork, all the resources, and then we have ongoing. We've developed this. We've used technology to develop a platform for all the doctors in our network and clinicians in our network, which is about 6,000 now. That if they have a question, Monday through Friday, and even sometimes on the weekend, we have an education staff. It's our technology platform is almost like a Facebook type but it's not. It's an internal one. But they can go on and ask a question. It's HIPAA compliant about a patient. I've got this patient situation. These are the symptoms. These are the labs. What are you thinking? I'm stuck. They always have. They're not on an island. And so when you're changing the paradigm of how you treat patients and you're moving from an allopathic model to a root cause disease model, it's a long time for learning. And doctors and clinicians need a support system. So we've developed that. And then we also have another set of faculty that they have a direct email to if they have a really complex case. And then we encourage them to come back to training once a year. I have nurse practitioners that have been with me for 13 years, and I require them to come back through training once a year because it changes, it gets updated with the latest and greatest research. And also what they'll say is, every time I come in, I learn something new, or they'll say, I'm re-energized and I'm re-fired up about what I'm doing, and we really are helping people, and I'm so excited. So those are kind of all the ways we keep them engaged. And we have monthly webinars where we do ongoing education about nutrition and nutraceuticals and multiple fingers of education for them.
And the fact that the physicians bring in their staff speaks a lot for them.
Yes. And it's an investment. It's not free. I mean,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That says a lot for them because they recognize it's a team effort, and they can only be as good as the team and the foundation they have in that office.
Those are the kind of clinicians we want in our network that honor, because I cannot do what I do without my staff. If I don't have there is no person that has a more important job in our office. I mean, we're all different parts of the same body, and I need all of them to function.
Absolutely. That like I said, that says a lot about the doctors that they would do that. Now you have I know your book, because I bought your book, The Hormone Havoc. dispelling the myths and misconceptions about hormones in women and men.
Yeah.
Oftentimes when you hear people talk about hormones, they think just women. They don't think about men.
Yeah.
Why do you think, why is that? Just lack of information or?
Yeah, lack of information. About a decade or so ago, it kind of started to become trendy for men to talk about low T syndrome because there was a big effort of to help men understand it's not about your manhood. A lot of men historically would, if you talked about low testosterone, it kind of made them feel like we were somehow dissing on their manhood. No, not it. So when you understand from a male perspective that as testosterone declines, which is happening in younger and younger in men, and that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But when they understand that the blues, the blahs, even the fatigue, the muscles, the joints, the can't think and focus is what guys say a lot. I'm like, I cannot focus. I feel like I have adult ADD. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't get it out. That short-term memory. When they realize that all of these things can and usually are related to suboptimal or on the low end of the normal range of testosterone, and it can be fixed, a light bulb goes off. And it's the same thing with women. Flipping that conversation that hormones aren't just for women going through menopause that are having hot flashes. It happens way before that, with the other hormones that I already just talked about.
You're right about the conversation, because I do think it's interesting, and I'm sure with your studying, your learning, your research, it is happening much younger, and I'm sure that has to do with the foods we eat and the
has
things.
Everything to do with the food, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. And hopefully, now that we have Senator Kennedy in there, we'll get some things changed on that.
We're working on it. He's
for sure. I know you're very involved
with children and young, and I'm really love it because we've got to create a better world for our children, and that's what it's all about. We got to get the kids healthy first. And
absolutely. Now you are very, very committed to making a difference, and I know that personally and professionally about you, Terri. But tell us about what you're doing with Stacy and America First. Talk about that, because that's so cool.
I love America First Policy Institute, America First Women's Initiative, America First Works. I'll tell you, I've been involved in a lot of groups that are committed to change. But AFPI, America First Women's, America First Works, they're doers. And to be involved with a group that puts their money where their mouth is, or their money where their mouth is so refreshing. And I feel like now I'm actually being able to be a part of something that really has some great, just really far reaching impact. And they're very quiet behind the scenes, and that's how we like it over there. But with Stacy Shefflin, I have been just honored to be asked to come and be a part of the America First Women's Initiative. And really my focus is the health pillar. But the truth initiative, the TRUTH, they all have a different pillar. Each one of those letters has a different pillar with a different meaning and words behind it, which I would need a script to really explain it all in here. But the arm of that I'm super passionate about is health and transparency in healthcare, and medical freedom. I'm telling you, it is. Medical freedom is something I just did a podcast about it. I am shouting it from the rooftops because, and the Truth Initiative and America First Women's Initiative is really about freedom in general, but medical freedom is definitely one of those. And a lot of people think, well, what is medical freedom? It's choice. It's having transparency in healthcare and in government to where I have all the options laid out in front of me, and I can choose the best option for me or my family. And I don't want somebody shoving an agenda down my throat. And this has to do with health too, with food. Food is the ultimate top of medical freedom, because if we don't have transparency and know what's going on with our food, because you already said it, we have seen now study after study that food is causing so much of the diseases and the hormone disruption in younger and younger people. So I'm just honored to be a part of that. I'm excited to see where it goes. And it's just been such a pleasure I was on a call with some people from AFPI today talking about the healthcare and how can we help with the MAHA agenda and really get some good traction and some good data there. And they're just doers, and they really care about our country. They care about the American citizens. And what we're talking about is bipartisan. This is not a political agenda. This is an American citizen agenda, and especially our children. If we don't get this healthcare conversation changed for the sake of our children, they're going to not be able to have the beautiful, glorious benefits of living in this country that you and I have had.
Absolutely. Amen. I put the website up there, encourage people to go take a look at that and sign up, and your podcast and everything is there as well. In your book, it's a great informative, place.
Yeah. And the another one that might have more information about the book and all these other things I'm talking about and what I'm involved in is terridenei.com, or could be drterryshow.com. Something.
Okay, I'll put that in the comments.
Google me and you'll find everything.
I'll put that in the comments after, so we have that. And
yeah.
So you've done this for 17, 18 years. What's your proudest accomplishment or moment when you look back? Because I think about when I first met you, Terri, and what you were doing, and I've seen you just excel in the knowledge base and the advocacy that you've accomplished. What's your biggest?
I'll tell you, it is honestly and I'm not exaggerating on the number, tens of thousands of patients whose lives have been changed. That is what gets me up every day. And that's what motivates me in what I do. And I'm not just talking about the patients that we serve in our 2 clinics, but from all of the patients of the doctors that we've trained, the conferences that I've spoken at where I've shared nuggets and just dropped a seed of change of thought maybe in one doctor's mind that might change 100 or 1,000 patients. That's my proudest accomplishment, if you will.
Yeah. That's the way you should be. Congratulations. What's something I haven't asked you that you would like to share? Is there something I haven't asked you?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't know, something personal about me, like what is the other side of my life look like when I'm not researching and speaking and going to DC and all those things. Probably I could share that. I have,
please.
My husband, Dan, and I have 7 kids and just had our 7th grandbaby 6 weeks ago. And we are, one of our daughters just got married, so sure babies are on the way. Another daughter's getting married next June, so more babies are on the way. And so it's just been so fun that part of my life is just a ton of fun. And
how many girls and how many boys?
Let's see. Now there's 1, 2 of the 7 grandkids, 4 are boys and 3 are girls.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then of the kids, 5 are girls and 2 are boys.
Okay.
So we've got a good mix of both. And honestly, and now it's just interesting I'm 58, I just turned 58, and there's things that just become important at this stage of our life. And you look at those grandkids and I think, okay, that is, besides the patients that we're helping, that's the other group of people that we're getting up and doing it for, to make this the amazing country that we were born to be, and that we were, and that we will be again.
Yeah, I have 5 granddaughters, and now I have 2 great grandbabies, boys and 2 girls. It's just like, that's when you look at it and you think you want them to have the very best that they can possibly have. And we have the opportunity to do that. So Terri, I can't thank you enough for being here. I just think you shared so many insights, and you're continuing to work out there and share information to help people who might not know. And so I just thank you so much. I thank all the people who joined in, like I said, live or recorded. I appreciate that a bunch. So everyone have a blessed day. Thank you again, Terri.
Thank you. Bye-bye.